Hi there, this is Saurabh Pandey, and today we have a new topic to talk about. And the topic is how to present a business case for social media to top management. So, there are various types of organizations that we need to understand first. And you, as a person, could be working in an agency or could be working in an organization. Uh, uh, the reality is that uh, the type of ROI presentations that you make depends upon the kind of organizations that you work in. So, for example, the first types of organizations are the champion-led organizations, where these are early stage organizations, and essentially there is a champion or a person who spearheads the social media or digital aspects, and he is or she is an early adopter, and he or she would want the organization to really imbibe the social media or digital marketing best practices and go on and scale further. Uh, Other organizations are more team led, which means there are specific teams that handle digital marketing or social media, but the entire organization as such is not so savvy with social media. So there are specific functions or departments that would really do well in terms of handling social media. And then there are organizations which are much more advanced. These are largely the MNCs, large organizations, which are also more, socially conscious and socially active, and they have a central brand team, a central policy team, centrally created guidelines for the entire organizations in terms of marketing and social media. These are very advanced, large organizations, and as I said, different organizations will have a different way of how the ROI case can be presented and what level of depth is needed uh, in different organizations. Generally, you present these cases to the top management, and a champion-led scenario, more than the top management, like more than the CEO, it's the spearhead, it's the champion himself or herself, is someone who has to be kept in loop. That person can be you, who is spearheading uh, an activity in an organization, or it could be you again in an agency, but you are interacting with a champion somewhere else, right? So that person is important enough, critical enough to be kept in loop always. And in team lead scenario, it could be someone like the head of the team, that could be the department head, who would want his needs or her needs to be addressed, and so that becomes the top management for us. In advanced, scenarios in MNCs and large organizations, there could be many people who could classify as top management. There could be many layers where you will have to present ROI cases in a different way. In fact, in one of our last past webinars, we talked about creating analytics dashboards for different departments of an organization. So you could also refer to that webinar. Uh, Needless to say, the top management is critical for anyone, for the champion or for the agency, because top management essentially has the power to scale up your efforts. If certain efforts have done well, they can be scaled with appropriate budgets. Uh, Second, they have the power to shift the culture of the organization towards more being more social media savvy. And we all know that social media becomes more powerful if the organization's culture, if the employees are also active on social platforms. That helps the social media efforts. And lastly, of course, they can bring in the best practices from other departments. So, as I said, in certain organizations, some departments practice social media and some departments do not. So, those best practices can be, brought in, and other departments can also follow the suit. And that could work well with the champion also, because that person becomes the Spock, the digital expert or the social expert within the organization, and helps scale up the entire culture. As an agency also it helps you, because then your business expands from one department to more departments as well. So the top management has to be in the sync. uh, which is why we are building a case for social media. uh, Largely building a case for social media is not a very intricate or complex one. uh, the main essence is that if you could understand what are the challenges and pain points an organization is facing, you can then deploy a strategy around it and see how you can uh, take the organizations from a current state of affairs to a preferred state, right? So ROI is nothing but a justification for the investment in social media. It's a case that you're building to justify why one should invest in social media and what could be the returns, what could be the key benefits that the organization can reap from social media. Now, the benefits could be on a macro level, the three major benefits that an organization can reap. Number one, they can expand business. Business expansion implies more sales, more revenues, or more audience. Right. Second, they can expand their share of voice, which essentially implies that their mind share from people increases, because whenever people are reading something on social platforms, uh, the opportunity or the possibility of discovering this brand through conversations is much more than other brands. So that share of voice can be measured and tracked. And lastly, an organization would want its trust, its thought leadership, its recognition to increase in the market. So these are the three major benefits that an organization expects. And when you create a social media strategy, then you should create it in such a way that your strategy is tied into one of these goals. And then you need to also show how these goals can be measured, right? So you need to deploy your KPIs, key performance indicators, and show, you know, how would you measure them, and these measurements define whether a certain effort is successful or has failed, right? So the management goals, of course, can vary, as I said earlier. Also, you need to check out our last one of our last webinars around analytics dashboard for different departments. A CEO is more concerned about overall business growth, right? So when you are presenting a certain case to CEO, so he will look at very macro level metrics about the business growth. As I said, more concerned about audience growth, sales growth, revenue growth, units sold, etc., etc. A CMO can go slightly more deeper and could be concerned about traffic, the trust or reputation, your reach, engagement, and intent of consumers to buy something, right? So a CMO can be less bothered about transactional elements, but it would be more bothered about the qualitative elements. Similarly, a business head would definitely focus on his own product line and maybe on largely on traffic and leads, because that's what he's concerned with. So essentially, whichever is the department, whichever is the stakeholder that you are presenting to, this is the ideal framework that you should start with. And this framework, as you can see, is very nicely and succinctly going to reveal a lot of stuff about what and how you're going to move forward and transition an organization from a certain state of affairs to a preferred state. So the framework very clearly states the current state, pain points, preferred states, KPIs, and solutions which you need to fill. So now let's look at a certain example and see how we are filling this framework. So we're talking about, let's say, a mobile phone brand, which looks like a strong brand because it's among the top 5 brands and it sells through retail channels. But the pain points are very loud and clear. It's losing out to brands that are selling online, and this brand is not really being talked about online as well. That's the couple of pain points that we can see here. The preferred state where the brand would want to be in is to be able to sell online, number one. Number two, to have top of mind consideration amongst buyers. And number three, people talking positively about the brand. So these are three specific goals that are getting set up here. Now, how are these three goals going to be measured? That would be shown under the KPIs column. So for people talking about the brand, the metric would be share of voice. We should track the share of voice, and we should create a strategy to see more people talking about our brand. Uh, Sales per e-commerce platform is essentially about your sales online. So of course the strategy would talk about how you're going to forge alliances with all the major marketplaces, how you would create competitively priced products, discounting, etc., offers. That would be the strategy part. But you would measure sales per e-commerce platform. Reach and engagement also look to be a part of your share of voice, because ultimately on social platforms, your reach and engagement contribute to uh, the voice, the share of voice of the conversation around brands. And lastly, the sentiment, because the brand would want to be positively talked about. So sentiment analysis is also important, and sentiment can be a KPI. And how to get more positive sentiment, again, the strategy element has to be put by you here, right? So this is how you create a framework. Let's look at another example where slightly more tangible ROI is being illustrated. Now the current status is that for a different product, it already sells online. It has a certain conversion rate, 5%, average session duration, and pages per session, page views per session is also there. So this is the current status. The pain point is 50% of the traffic is not qualified. Not qualified may imply that this traffic is not of very good quality. It is bouncing back maybe, or it is spending very less time on the site, and so on. Conversion rates are low, that's the pain point. And the preferred state is when the conversion rates are higher, right, and they need to get more qualified traffic, so maybe less bounce and all that stuff. The KPIs are very clear, very, very clear here. You can see that since we're handling social traffic or social media marketing, so the KPIs are concerned with social traffic only. So social traffic with greater than 4 minutes of average duration, greater than 2.9 page views per session, and conversion rate greater than 5% from social traffic is the clear KPI. How you achieve it, you will have to write in your strategy in this solutions part, right? So be sure to tie your strategy with goals, and tie your strategy and goals both with the KPIs, right? They have to reflect that bonding within themselves. Otherwise, if your strategy is something else and goal is something else and KPI is somewhere else, then that would not really convey the trust. The fact that you are able to create this kind of a framework itself is enough for a top management to invest in you, because they can see the tangibles here, right? Uh, the budget's allocation are subjective in nature because they depend on various situations. Net budgets are nothing but a combination of your investments into different areas. For example, a budget could be a combination of your operation budget, your media budget, and your manpower budget. Operation budget is nothing but the investment that you're making in software tools or creative tools, your optimization efforts, your management efforts, your tech costs, etc. These are all operational costs. Then your media budget is essentially your media costs, your media spend. When you buy media space, you, you spend and you invest your money in media. So that comes under media budget. The manpower budget is all about investment into manpower, which includes their salaries also. So combination of all these would tell you your budget, right? At times you can also set your budget in accordance with your organization. So if you know that your organization sets a budget in such a way that it is always 10% or 5% of your total gross revenues, then you get a very clear starting point, and you say, okay, fine. For me also, the budget would be 5% of total revenue that I bring in, right, and so on and so forth. So that is how you plan for your ROI. And what is ROI? ROI is return on investment, and it's a very simplistic way. You can easily calculate ROI by this formula here, which is profit divided by investment multiplied by 100. That is your ROI. Profit is nothing but gross revenue minus your investments or minus your budgets or costs. And investment is essentially the cost or the budget that you've created for spending. So earning minus spending essentially is profit. Now, if you see this slide, you can see on the left hand side is the current situation, right? And in the current situation, you write down everything. You know what is the conversion rate, you know the social media traffic, what is the unit sold, total revenues, revenues from social, CPC, social media budget, so on. Everything is put down here. And what we are claiming is that we are going to increase our conversion rate by 10%, and we are going to increase our social media traffic by 10%. That's all that we're doing, right? And we're planning for that. And then if we do that, if we're able to increase our conversion rate by 10% overall, then our overall conversion rate becomes 5.5% as compared to 5% earlier. And our overall sales become 5,637 units as compared to 5,000 units earlier. Our overall revenues increased to 56 lakh 37,000 as compared to 50 lakhs earlier. Our CPC, cost per click, decreases from 10 rupees to 9.75 rupees now. The budget is the same. So we need to show with our strategy as to how with the same budget are we going to create more conversions. How are we confident that the conversion rate will be 10%, right? So you can very easily strategize, and you can, for example, if you see on your left hand side, you see that the qualified traffic's conversion rate is already 5.5%. So there is no rocket science to it. All we are saying is that we are also going to be 5.5% for the entire traffic. So what we're saying is that we are going to do something, and so that all our traffic is qualified traffic. All our traffic that comes to us spends a considerable amount of time on the site. It does not bounce, right? And or if at all some traffic bounces back, then we need to compensate that with other traffic which does better than average, right? So we can already see a solution in our left hand side, and the qualified traffic is already at 5.5%, and we can, I think, through our strategy can easily achieve a global 5.5% conversion rate, right? Similarly, we need to show through strategy how we're going to increase social media traffic by 10%. I don't think that's a very problematic approach. You can easily show how you can do that, right, through certain tactics and strategies. So idea is that once you show these things in a framework, right, by very, very critically and very deeply analyzing your current status with very cogent strategy and very few measurable impact points. Like in this one, we are saying that our sales has increased, our revenue has increased, and our cost has decreased. Only 3 points, right? And if we can show that in advanced stage with a proper strategy, then the top management has no qualms about spending, investing money with you, right? So when you reduce your ROI with the same formula that we learned earlier, we see that ROI earlier was 400%, which now increases in the new scenario to 463.7%. Right? So that is how we create an ROI case, a business case, and it's important, as I said, to have a very cogent strategy. That strategy has to be linked with the goals, and the goals have to be linked with measurable KPIs. These are the three important things. And the fourth important thing is, of course, as I said, to deeply analyze current situation. Your strategy automatically gets deduced from the current situation. If you can analyze situation well, you will get the solution from this analysis itself, right? So no need to get bothered, no need to get afraid. Go for it. Try this framework in your organization. Let us know what has worked for you, right? And do also let me know uh, what other topics would you want us to talk about. And you can always visit dotconverse.com/webinars to catch all our past webinars as well. Thank you very much.